In this video, I'm taking you behind the scenes of an independent florist's business. It's a business that's making over £160,000 a month. Let me show you exactly how they're doing it and how you can swipe their tactics for your business, even if you're not selling flowers. This is an established florist right here in the UK who in just 6 months started getting 8 times as many reviews, 80 times more referrals. They got a ton of publicity and they earned a reputation as one of the very best in the world at what they do. And it all started at a meeting upstairs in this building here at Entrepreneur Circle HQ. The owner of the florist business, he'd been in business for several years at that point, and he was part of one of my mastermind groups. He was very ambitious, very driven for growth. And he came to one of our sessions, part of a group of just 10 other business owners, and he came with a very specific question. And he said, Nigel, I'd really like you to help me understand today what the best florist in the world would look like. It's a really, really excellent question. And to answer it, we started by saying, well, what happens when you normally order flowers? And of course, the answer is most florists in any country, I guess, but certainly here in the UK, you would pick up the phone and you would call the florist. The florist would take your order, and then if I'm sending flowers to my mum, say, the next thing that I then experience is I get a phone call or a text from my mum thanking me for the flowers that I've sent her. That is my customer journey. So, well, what would the best florist in the world look like? And the very first thing that we would put in to the process for the best florist in the world is that immediately that the order's been placed, the business, the florist, would send an email to the customer. Might sound like a very obvious thing. Doesn't happen in most cases though, does it? If you've ordered flowers recently, you'll know. But it's important. My mum lives on her street number is number 1818. And 2 years ago for her birthday, I sent her some flowers. And I was a bit surprised, got to the evening of that day, and I've not had my usual call, oh Nigel, thank you for the lovely flowers, which I've been sending her every year for her birthday for many, many years. But this call never came on this particular day. So later that evening I called my mum up, I had a nice day, oh I've had a lovely day, thank you, chat. No mention of these lovely flowers. Said, did you get any deliveries today? No. A bit cross, but of course by this time the florist had all shut, had to wait till the next morning. So I rang up again. Say, what happened to the flowers I ordered for my mum on her birthday? You let me down, you didn't deliver. I said, no, we did deliver. They were delivered yesterday afternoon at 2:10. Little investigation, they'd gone to number 80, which is hundreds of yards away. The people at number 80 have no idea who Mrs. Bottrell is at number 18. My mum never got her flowers. That would have been picked up if I'd received a confirmation email, which surely the best florist in the world would definitely do. Then we started to work this thing through. What would happen next? Thinking about the person that was spending the money, the person that was ordering the flowers. And we figured that the best florist in the world would actually send not just the email confirmation of the order as soon as it's been placed, but they'd send a photograph of the flowers once they'd been made up and were ready for delivery. And wouldn't it be great if that photograph of the flowers actually included in it the florist that had made up the arrangement or the bouquet? So that would go with a second email or maybe a text message that would say, hi Nigel, thanks for your order. Thought you'd like to see a photo of the flowers that we're sending on your behalf to Pamela. The photo's attached. Your order has been made up today by Laura. And there's a picture of Laura, the florist, with her flowers. Very smart this now, because what's starting to happen now, we're starting to, as the customer, I'm much more engaged now in this journey. It's lovely to know what the flowers actually look like that my mum's about to receive. And of course, I do start to feel positive things about Laura, the lady that's made these beautiful flowers for me. We'll come back to that later on. That's a really important step in building a customer journey that delivers those referrals, those reviews, that reputation and that free publicity. Then of course, the best florist in the world wouldn't just deliver the flowers in a regular old van with the name of the florist shop on the side. The best florist in the world would have really eye-catching vehicles. And this is what we came up with for this particular florist. You can see here that, just to be clear, the door of that van is shut, and that's the artwork on there. It looks like the van is full of flowers and driving with its doors open, and it's the same on the back of that vehicle as well. So it looks like you're driving behind it, looks like the van is full of flowers. It was a little tricky graphic design project that had to be undertaken, but what it did was turn these vans into genuinely eye-catching kind of mobile billboards effectively. What this particular florist has discovered is that the £2,000 or £3,000 that he spends on the wraps of his vans and vehicles is, in his words, the single most effective marketing spend I make, because every week he's getting phone calls from people that have seen his van, because the best florist in the world would deliver his or her wares in an eye-catching vehicle. But who would be driving that vehicle? The best florist in the world will give some thought, not just to who it is behind the wheel and delivering the flowers, but to what we call them. And what we came up with as we went through this process is that the driver of the florist vehicle and the guy that's going up to ring the doorbell and hand over the flowers, well, he'd be called a deliverer of happiness. Because when you think about it, when you send flowers, whatever the occasion, the purpose of sending flowers is to make people feel happier. And so it says very clearly on his embroidered jacket and fleeces and whatever time of year it is, the t-shirts in the summer that they're wearing, very clear the name of the driver, and the deliverer of happiness is his title. But the best florists in the world wouldn't stop there. They'd give some thought and attention as to how that delivery process actually happens. This is where it gets really quite specific. The first element is that as soon as the flowers are delivered, so the deliverer of happiness has gone to my mum's house, he's knocked on her door and she's been in and she's received the flowers, and he comes back to his van, the first thing he does before he can start his engine, before he can put it into gear and move away, is he has to send an email. And he has to send an email to the customer, the person that placed the order, letting the customer know that the flowers have been delivered and what time they were. It would just say something, along the lines of, "Hi Nigel, just to let you know that I've delivered the flowers to your mum or to Pamela at 1:35 p.m. today. Thank you ever so much for your order. We really appreciate it and I hope she loves them." And it'd be signed off, Danny, deliverer of happiness. So now think about it from a customer perspective. I haven't just had the confirmation of email, which I don't get from most florists. I got the photograph and the name of the lady that's made up the flowers, and I've then had confirmation from the deliverer of happiness that the flowers have been delivered to my mum. Compare that to the regular customer journey that happens with 99.9% of florists in this country. You can start to see a real difference that is emerging here. But of course, when you go deliver flowers, not everybody is in. And so we have specific instructions as to what the best florist in the world would do if someone's not in. So the first thing they do, they wouldn't go straight away and knock on next door's door, because if you knock on next door's door and you're holding a bouquet of flowers and then they open the door, they're all excited because someone sent them flowers, and then you tell them that it's for your next door neighbour, you become a deliverer of unhappiness. And that's absolutely not what we want to be. So the process is that Danny, the deliverer of happiness, has to go back to his van if the person who's delivering to it is not in. He has to put the flowers back on the van, and he then has to go and knock on the next door neighbours. And they answer the door. He says, "Hello, help me, my name's Danny. I'm delivering some flowers for your neighbour, Mrs. Bottrell. She's not in at the moment. Could I possibly leave them with you?" And the person says, "Of course, that will be fine." So I'll just go and fetch them. So he scurries back down to his van, opens the down, scoops up the flowers, and along with the flowers, he picks up two other things. The first one is a little box of 6 Thornton's chocolates, just a small little box, nothing over the top, just 6 little chocolates in there. And he also sweeps up a card. And he goes back to the neighbour's house. So here are the flowers, Mrs. Bottrell. And as a little thank you for your help today, I've just got a little gift for you. There's just a little chocolate, little treat for you to enjoy this evening. And there's also this card, which is in an envelope. And the card on the front of it anoints them as a Good Neighbour Award. What a nice thing to do. And the Good Neighbour Award just puts inside, "Thank you ever so much for helping us out today with this delivery of flowers." They've got the new chocolates, and on the back of the card is a little offer for 10% off flowers when they order from this particular florist. So a really smart way to do it. The offer is it's a side thing. The big thing is the Good Neighbour Award. Just a little piece of card that's delivered. Looks very nice and looks very smart. So now we've got someone else in this whole customer journey who isn't a customer and isn't receiving the flowers, but they're feeling good about this florist as well. Now we fast forward then a couple of days, and because you know when flowers are delivered by most florists, what they do, the flowers come with the little sachet of flower food. Now it turns out when you talk to florists, and what you should do with this flower food is wait a couple of days, change the water and add it to the water on day 2 or 3. Okay, you shouldn't put the flower food in the water on the day the flowers are delivered. That's not the optimal way to do it. But of course, that's what most people do because the sachet arrives with the flowers and it's what do I do with this? And put the sachet in the water and we give them the flower food. So that we don't do that with the best florist in the world. What this florist does is that the day after the flowers have been delivered, they post a little envelope out, second class, to the person who's received the flowers. Okay, so in this case, my mum. And what happens is, therefore, on day 3 or day 4, this envelope turns up second class post. And in the envelope is the little sachet of flower food. And there's a card. And the card explains, today is the day to change the water and use the flower food. It also tells them if you snip the stems, and then that will encourage the nutrients to get into the flowers and the flowers will last even longer. It also incorporates in that little card a little discount voucher should that customer ever want to order flowers themselves from this particular florist, and it politely asks for reviews. And the way it does this is really lovely because it reminds them in this card, so it tells them for the first time that your flowers were made up by Laura. And Laura would love it if you were able to go online and leave a short review. Only, of course, if you loved Laura's flowers, but it would make her day and she'd be very grateful. And this was the genius step. By making the review about the member of staff that had done the work and prepared the flowers, boom, the number of reviews went through the roof. But this whole journey from the email confirmation of order, which on itself is only a little tiny step, isn't going to get much of a response, but to the email and the text with the photograph of Laura and the flowers before they're sent out, allied to the deliverer of happiness, delivering it in his nice cheery way, and or leaving them with the neighbour with the Good Neighbour Award, because the Good Neighbour Award is talked about when the flowers are delivered. And then this envelope turns up 2 days later with the instructions that today's the day to change the water and put the flower food in, and then the reference to Laura. And what happens is the business starts getting just many more reviews than they've ever got before. And what's happening now as well is there's lots of elements in this customer journey for people to talk about. And as a consequence, it becomes really easy for people to talk about the florist and the flowers. And when they tell you, oh, where was that from? And the florist reputation has gone through the roof, and the word of mouth marketing has, it's like on massive steroids. I mean, it's just unreal in terms of the amount of people in and around the town where this florist is that is actually now ordering flowers from them. And that whole process, that whole customer journey is how you start getting 8 times as many reviews, 80 times more referrals, a ton of free publicity because people are talking about you, and a reputation as one of the very best in the world at what you do. And that's why thinking through properly your customer journey and mapping it out step by step and starting with the point, well, what would the best in the world do? You don't at that point have to be the best. You can choose not to do some of those things if you want to do so, but at least doing the thinking from the customer's perspective of what the best in the world or whatever you do, what that would look like, that at least gives you the choice and the chance to move in that direction if it's what you want to do. And for this particular florist, it was genuinely game-changing. He went on to secure lots and lots of commercial contracts for his flowers in the city of London, right in the centre of the West End and the city there. And the way he got the contracts was he used to turn up and he used to tell them the story I've just told you now. Let me tell you how we deliver flowers, because it's different to anybody else. Doesn't cost him any more money when you think about it. I mean, there's a little bit. He has to buy a camera to take pictures, and he's got to make sure his deliverers of happiness have got phones with email on, etc. But this is not a difficult thing to do. It's not a big capital spend. It's certainly not a big revenue spend. It's all about a big mental spend, about being able to take the time to think through properly from your customer's point of view what would make you properly stand out. And when you do that, you earn the referrals, you earn the reviews, you earn the reputation, and you earn all that free publicity as well. And it all comes by quality of thought from the business owner. And that's why I want to share it with you, because it's such a powerful story. We've replicated it many times with many other businesses, but it all started with that florist that continues to flourish and triumph today because he's putting his customer first and thinking about them in a way that, frankly, Most businesses don't.